The most dangerous lie you will ever tell is the one you tell yourself when you choose silence over truth. You convince yourself that staying quiet is harmless, that it avoids conflict, that it keeps the peace. But what you are really doing is betraying your own soul. Every time you know the truth and swallow it, you cut a piece out of yourself. Every time you watch a wrong and refuse to speak, you tell yourself your voice is worthless. Silence does not protect you, it corrodes you from the inside out. Think about the moments in history when silence prevailed. How many injustices flourished because ordinary people bit their tongues? How many atrocities were enabled because neighbors, friends, and citizens convinced themselves, it's not my place to speak? Silence is not neutral. Silence is consent, and when you stay silent in the face of truth, you are not avoiding betrayal. You are committing it, against yourself first and against the world second. You may believe that speaking truth will make you unpopular, that it will cost you friends, that it will isolate you. And you're right, it probably will, but here's the shocking paradox: the cost of silence is far greater. Because when you silence yourself, you don't just lose others. You lose yourself. You wake up years later wondering why your life feels hollow, why your dreams never materialized, why you are haunted by regret. It's because you betrayed your own integrity, one silence at a time until nothing was left. Silence feels safe because it shields you from immediate backlash. But what it really does is guarantee long-term decay. Your relationships suffer because they are built on dishonesty. Your career stalls because you never voiced your ideas. Your society collapses because the truth was never spoken when it was needed most. Silence may save you in the moment, but it destroys you in the end. And let's be clear, truth does not need to be shouted with arrogance or delivered with cruelty. But it must be spoken. Even trembling words carry more weight than silence. Even an imperfect truth, spoken with sincerity, carries more power than flawless silence. Your voice, however uncertain, is still a weapon against decay. So when you feel the urge to swallow your words, remember this: silence is not peace, silence is surrender. Silence is not wisdom, silence is fear. And silence in the face of truth is not just a small mistake. It is the ultimate betrayal of your own potential. Because when you refuse to speak the truth, you bury your purpose alive, and the world loses not only your voice, but the possibility of change it could have sparked. Most people wander through life waiting for their purpose to appear like a message written in the sky, as if destiny will one day knock on their door and announce itself. They treat purpose like a treasure buried in the sand, waiting to be stumbled upon by accident or revealed by luck. But purpose doesn't work that way. Purpose is not found, it is created. And it is created the moment you open your mouth and declare with conviction what you are willing to live for, fight for, and die for. The myth of finding purpose keeps millions paralyzed. They wait and wait and wait, telling themselves they are not ready, that clarity will come later, that their true calling will magically reveal itself. But in waiting, they waste their lives, because purpose is not a map waiting to be discovered, it is a flag waiting to be planted. You don't stumble into it. You carve it into existence with your words, your choices, and your actions. When you speak your purpose out loud, you give it form. You take the invisible and make it visible. That's why your voice matters, because your voice is the bridge between thought and reality. The moment you say, "This is who I am, this is what I will stand for, this is what I will not compromise," you begin to shape a destiny that did not exist before you spoke it. Words are not decoration, they are blueprints. They are the first strike of the hammer that builds the structure of your life. Look at every great leader, every revolutionary, every visionary. They didn't sit in silence waiting to find purpose, they declared it. They said, "I have a dream." They said, "Give me liberty or give me death." They said, Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Their words weren't just speeches, they were acts of creation. By daring to say them, they birthed realities that reshaped nations. The tragedy is that most people never speak with that kind of courage. They whisper their dreams in private, but never dare to proclaim them in public. They dilute their purpose until it becomes invisible. And then they wonder why their lives feel meaningless. But meaning doesn't drift down from the sky. It erupts from your own voice, spoken with conviction and backed by action. When you refuse to speak your purpose, you become a passive character in someone else's story. When you declare it, you become the author of your own. The power is in your voice, not the voice of politicians, not the voice of celebrities, not the voice of experts. Yours, because only you can give words to the fire that burns inside you. So stop waiting, stop searching, stop begging for clarity. Purpose is not a lottery ticket. You won't win it by chance. Purpose is a proclamation. Speak it, own it, shape it, and the moment you do, your life will no longer drift. It will ignite. Influence is not born from popularity, money, or position. Influence begins the moment you open your mouth and give voice to the thoughts that others carry silently in their hearts, but are too afraid to speak. Every society is filled with people who see the problems, feel the weight of injustice, recognize the lies, and yet remain mute. They whisper their fears in private, but in public they bite their tongues, and because they stay silent, nothing changes. The ones who dare to speak, who dare to articulate what others bury, become the voices that reshape the world. Think about it. The most influential figures in history were not always the most educated, the most powerful, or the most wealthy. They were the ones who said the words others avoided. They spoke truths that made people uncomfortable, truths that rattled the foundations of complacency. They named the corruption everyone tolerated. They exposed the lies everyone quietly knew but lacked the courage to confront. And because they dared to articulate the unspeakable, they created movements that outlived them. Why is this so powerful? Because human beings are wired for truth. Even when we deny it, even when we suppress it, we recognize it when it is spoken. The moment someone dares to give words to what we secretly believe but fear to admit, something inside us awakens. We realize we are not alone. We realize our private thoughts have a public ally, and suddenly one voice becomes the spark that ignites thousands. But here's the catch. Speaking what others fear to say will cost you. You will be mocked. You will be rejected. You will be attacked by those who are invested in silence. Yet that is precisely why it matters. Influence is not earned by blending in. It is earned by standing out. If your words never offend, never challenge, never provoke, then you are not leading. You are decorating the noise. Influence is not decoration. Influence is disruption. And here's the paradox. The very thing people fear will destroy them, speaking boldly, is the thing that will liberate them. Because the more you hide your voice, the weaker you become. The more you suppress what you know to be true, the more you shrink. But the moment you speak, even trembling, even imperfectly, you reclaim power. You send a signal to the world that fear will not rule you. And in doing so, you give others permission to do the same. The world is not starved for information. It is starved for courage. People don't need another bland opinion. They need someone willing to articulate what everyone else avoids. That is the genesis of influence, not repeating the safe script, not echoing the majority, but daring to speak the words that make silence impossible. So if you want influence, don't ask how to be popular. Ask what truth you are willing to voice that others fear. Influence doesn't begin with applause, it begins with courage, and the courage to speak what others hide is the very thing that makes your voice unforgettable. Words are not harmless. They build or they destroy. They heal or they wound. They liberate or they enslave. And the terrifying part is this: most people speak as if their words evaporate into thin air, as if they carry no consequences. But every word has weight. The question is, will your words be heavy with responsibility or hollow with carelessness? We live in a culture that treats speech like entertainment. People fire off opinions online as if their words carry no cost, no blood, no consequence. They mock, they slander, they lie, and then retreat behind the excuse, "It's just words." But words are never just words. Every war began with words. Every revolution began with words. Every betrayal, every reconciliation, every movement, every downfall, born from words. If you don't accept responsibility for the words you speak, you are playing with fire in a world drenched in gasoline. Responsibility means you measure your words not by how they make you feel in the moment, but by what they create in the future. Do your words strengthen or do they weaken? Do they clarify or do they confuse? Do they push people higher or drag them lower? Responsibility demands you stop speaking to impress and start speaking to build, because every word is a seed, and the harvest will always return to you. Careless words grow weeds. Responsible words grow legacies. The weight of your words increases with the size of your platform. The louder your voice becomes, the heavier the responsibility. That is why leaders collapse when they forget this truth. They chase influence, but they reject accountability. They want the crown, but not the cross it demands. But leadership without responsibility is tyranny, and words without responsibility are poison. Even in your private life, the rule holds. When you speak to your spouse, your children, your friends, are your words careless or responsible? Because those closest to you are shaped not by your intentions, but by your words. A single reckless sentence can scar for decades. A single responsible sentence can heal a broken heart in seconds. That is the weight of your voice. You cannot escape it. You cannot deny it. You can only decide whether it will be used for destruction or transformation. So, before you open your mouth, ask yourself, am I willing to own the full consequences of what I'm about to say? If not, be silent, because silence with integrity is stronger than speech without responsibility. But if yes, if you are willing to own it, then speak boldly, speak clearly, speak without fear. Because the world desperately needs words that are anchored in responsibility, not tossed around like confetti. The measure of your voice is not volume, it is not eloquence, it is not how many listen. The true measure of your voice is responsibility. Without it, your words are weightless, forgotten, and dangerous. With it, your words carry the power to reshape lives, rebuild nations, and echo into eternity. Silence has never written history, it has only permitted it. Every atrocity, every injustice, every abuse of power was tolerated because too many stood by and said nothing. Silence is not neutral, it is not harmless, it is consent disguised as cowardice, and history does not remember those who stood in the shadows. History remembers those who stood in the fire. Think about it. Every page you know, every story you admire, every hero you revere, they were not the silent ones. They were the voices that cut through the noise of conformity and dared to speak when it cost them everything. Martin Luther King Jr. did not remain silent in the face of racial hatred. Abraham Lincoln did not remain silent in the face of division. The suffragettes did not remain silent in the face of oppression. Their names are carved into history because their voices refused to disappear even when the world told them to shut up. And what about you? Will your life be remembered as a voice that stood or a silence that submitted? You may not be standing at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. You may not be sitting in the Oval Office. You may not be leading a global movement. But you are leading something. You are leading your home, your workplace, your community, your circle of influence. And in that space, silence or courage will define you. The truth is brutal. Silence makes you invisible. And invisibility is death for the human soul. To silence your voice is to erase your impact before it even begins. You don't have to agree with the world. You don't have to have perfect words. But you must have the courage to speak, because the alternative is to vanish into irrelevance. and irrelevance is a fate worse than failure. Failure, at least, means you tried. Silence means you surrendered without even entering the fight. And the world is not moved by those who surrender. It is moved by those who stand. History doesn't remember the comfortable, it remembers the courageous. It doesn't echo the whispers of those who complied. It roars with the voices of those who resisted. So when you are faced with the choice to speak up or to stay silent, understand this: your silence will not protect you. It will only protect the very thing that oppresses you. But your voice, even trembling, even imperfect, has the power to shift reality. That is what history teaches us. 100 years from now, no one will care how safe you played it, how comfortable you remained, how well you blended in. They will only care if you stood for something, if you dared to speak, if you left words behind that outlived your breath. History does not belong to the silent, it belongs to the voices that refuse to fade, and your choice today, right now, is whether your voice will vanish into obscurity or rise into eternity.